Some of us are really just here for narratives and worlds to immerse ourselves in. I'm Falcon, and today on Game Ranks, the top 25 single-player games of 2018. Number 25 is Biomutant, what looks to be a large mishmash of 90s mascot platforming with hack-and-slash combat. This game looks very much like a sort of customizable game for people who really enjoyed that type of game back in the day. However, the structure of it is supposedly going to be more like a more modern open world game, and that has me very intrigued. I'm looking forward very much to creating my own Biomutant and trying this game out. Biomutant does not have a specific release date, but comes out in 2018. Number 24 is Metro Exodus, the sequel set to follow the events of Metro Last Night and Metro 2033. It's a first-person shooter, survival horror / stealth game set in the post-apocalyptic Russian Federation. What has me particularly interested in this game is that the Metro games are good gameplay-wise, and this is going to go in between the sort of more open world style of a progression and more linear levels, and that to me sounds like a good way to tackle the is an open world alive problem. It also has a very cool looking world, and I mean that both literally and figuratively, and I frankly enjoy the look of both the weapons and the monsters. Metro Exodus is coming sometime this year, but they have not set a release date yet. Number 23 is We Happy Few, a game that we have actually seen go through quite a bit of development over the process of it becoming a AAA title technically, starting its life as an indie Steam early access release. We Happy Few is a stealth game where you have to blend in a world where everybody is drugged, and if you are not drugged, you will appear not to be happy to them, more or less. It's a game that has a lot of BioShock vibes to it, but also a lot of original gameplay ideas, and through its early access cycle, it's seen quite a bit of adversity, but the final product looks like it's probably going to be quite good. I've only played little bits of it from time to time, and I've kind of wanted to lay off of it until the final release, because it's one of those games that has shifted so rapidly in its public opinion that I kind of just want to play the final product because I've always liked the idea. We Happy Few is coming summer of this year, no hard date set. Number 22 is Darksiders III, is an open world action adventure, kinda hack and slash, little bit deeper but not too much. It's still that fun kind of arcade fighting action that's intended to take place parallel to the events of Darksiders 1 and 2. You'll be playing as Fury, the sister of War, one of the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, who has been tasked with hunting down and killing the 7 deadly sins. It's also cool because the founder of Vigil Games, the original developer of these games, started a company called Gunfire Games after Vigil went under. A large amount of the staff that worked at Vigil works at Gunfire, so it's very much still being developed by the same people. The first 2 are great, and I have high expectations for this one. Number 21 is Ninokuni Revenant Kingdom, which, if you happen to want to know a deeper reason why I recommend this game, maybe go watch my Before You Buy on it. I had a great time with it. I think it is a phenomenal sequel to Ninokuni. In a lot of ways, I think it improves upon it. There are a few things that I think the original maybe does a little bit better, but if you're looking for a JRPG with what I would probably call unparalleled aesthetics at very least, and perhaps a story that kind of acknowledges a lot of things going on in the real world, while also being totally absurd if you think about it, Ninokuni 2 Revenant Kingdom is a definite must-play. Ninokuni 2 Revenant Kingdom is already out and worth a play if you enjoy JRPGs, because it is a fine example of one. Number 20 is Vampyr, spelled with a Y. It's kind of an action adventure / RPG type game. I think it rests somewhere between those 3 points fairly comfortably. It's the story of a doctor who's been turned into a vampire amidst the 1918 Spanish flu pandemic in London. It's billed as an action RPG, but if you've viewed the action, it's very oriented towards not necessarily an arcadey type of action, but certainly more action than Dark Souls per se. Overall, this seems like it's going to be a very interesting game. I've certainly enjoyed the visual style of it since we've seen it, but I haven't gotten my hands on it. That said, it looks like it's going to be quite the experience. Vampyr is coming on June 5th of this year. Number 19 is Kingdom Come Deliverance. It is a game that basically looks like a lot of RPGs we've played along the lines of The Witcher 3 or Skyrim, but takes all of the fantasy elements out. Now, this is something that made me very interested in it, but it is very clear that this is a niche game. There are people that absolutely love the hell out of this game, and there are a lot of people that seem quite the opposite. It does have its flaws, for one, but it also engulfed itself in a lot of controversies thanks to the developer. We won't go into that though, we're talking about the game on its merits, and as its own thing, it's really not a bad game. Like, it's certainly for a specific kind of person, somebody looking for the gameplay of Witcher 3 with none of the magic, and it has a very complex combat system, much more complex than most of the games mentioned that it is vaguely similar to. Now, that's not to say it's not worth trying, because it is different and it's done well. Kingdom Come Deliverance is already out and you can pick it up wherever you pick up games. Number 18 is Shenmue III, a game that most people thought would never happen. However, it's on its way, courtesy of Yu Suzuki and several people who worked on the original 2 Shenmue games. Frankly, a game that did so many things that modern games are evolved from and never really got the praise or recognition it deserved, is very cool to finally see the story coming to an end. At least that's what we think at the moment. We don't know for sure. What we do know is that the developers aren't trying too hard to make it look strikingly different from the original 2 games, which is great. But we also don't know exactly what gameplay conventions they'll be adopting, if it will play like the original 2, in which things are very deliberate, or if we'll see some more modern features incorporated. We'll know more about that as it draws closer to release. We don't have a specific date, but supposedly in Q4 2018, we'll be seeing Shenmue 3. Number 17 is the Shadow of the Colossus remaster, which alongside Shenmue 3 is one of those games that has modified gaming as a whole on such a level you can see its influence in almost any kind of game that uses the open world concepts, especially in a more artistic way. Shadow of the Colossus is just basically wandering around in some wilderness beating bosses, but that is an overly simplistic description of the game. It is so much more deep, so much more interesting, and so much more emotionally gratifying than that. The remaster is also beautiful. It is seriously an amazing looking game, better than you could possibly imagine, especially if you remember what the game looked like before, which was not bad by any means, but it's a big upgrade. Shadow of the Colossus is already out. You can pick it up at your favorite gaming retailer. Number 16 is Octopath Traveler, a new RPG from the Bravely Default team at Square. It is such a gratifying look to see. The sort of pixel art, very old school art style transposed specifically to 3D without losing exactly what they are going for with an old school look and feel. The character's a sprite, everything else is a very simple polygon with frankly awesome looking pixel art. It's what I imagine JRPGs would look like at this point in time when I was a kid. Obviously it's evolved in a different way, but it's so cool to see that we are going to at least have one chance at this style of game. It's gorgeous, and the Bravely Default team really did a good job with their story for their games. Octopath Traveler is coming July 13th, 2018. Number 15 is Subnautica, a survival adventure that takes place on a planet made of entirely water. What's nice about Subnautica is it doesn't just plunk you onto water and say, hey, do the survival thing. It actually does have a plot. So it's not just a survival game / underwater Minecraft, however, it does give you a lot of tools that give you that type of feel. The PC version of Subnautica is already out, and we'll also be seeing it on Xbox One sometime this year. Number 14 is Ori and the Will of the Wisps, the sequel to Ori and the Blind Forest, a phenomenally great platformer that I absolutely enjoyed the hell out of when it came out. Their intention is to make Ori and the Will of the Wisps essentially what Super Mario Bros. 3 was to the original Super Mario Bros., so a very big upgrade to the game without changing it up so much it's unrecognizable. The developers liken Ori to sort of Rayman combined with Metroid, playing out as a Metroidvania, and I think that's a pretty accurate description of the first game. If they actually build on all of the platforming goodness of the first, I could totally see it being the Super Mario 3 to the original Super Mario. Ori and the Will of the Wisps does not have a release date yet, but we will be seeing it sometime this year. Number 13 is Code Vein, an anime-style Dark Souls gruesome post-apocalyptic tale that to me looks like it's really going to be a very good game. However, they haven't done a whole lot of stuff releasing exactly what this game is about. However, it does incorporate vampiric themes, such as the consumption of blood and other supernatural abilities. In a lot of ways, it really looks like a game inspired by Dark Souls, but at the same time looks nothing like Dark Souls, if that makes any sense at all. It looks over the top in a good way, and that's something I want to play because it's a style of game that's good, a style of art that's good, and Bandai Namco has been known to surprise. Code Vein does not have a release date yet, but we will see it sometime this year. Number 12 is Celeste, a game that you absolutely have to give a shot if you haven't already. There's a certain type of demographic that may not have given this a lot of thought. There's a lot of pixel art platforming games, but this introduces some clever mechanics that make it certainly more worthwhile. It's dash-oriented. There is no HUD. They use the color of the main character's hair to tell you what you have left in the dash meter. And overall, the levels are probably some of the better designed. Honestly, it is a really good game that has a story that is actually worthwhile, and that's not something that happens in a lot of platformers. And even if it didn't, it's gorgeous and plays awesome. Celeste is out on pretty much everything, and you should absolutely try it out. Number 11 is Bayonetta III, a game that you absolutely can't miss if you like anything from Platinum Games, because in my opinion, this is basically their flagship series. Bayonetta 1 is great, Bayonetta 2 is better, and it stands to reason that because they keep getting better. I mean, if you played Nier Automata, you know exactly what I'm talking about. That is probably the best game of last year, at least in my opinion. We don't know what date Bayonetta 3 is coming, but it is coming exclusively to Switch sometime this year. Number 10 is Crackdown 3. What can we say about Crackdown 3 that you don't automatically assume I'm going to say? Probably nothing. This has been a game that has been more than a long time coming. Far too long of a wait. And frankly, something that's been on our wish list since forever. I'm gonna mention the destructible environments, and then we're probably gonna move on because basically we want to see Terry Crews destroy a city. That's what I'm here for. I've said it for years now, literally years, this exact same thing. Is this going to finally be the time we play this stupid game? Supposedly sometime Q2 or Q3, we will be seeing it on the Xbox One and Microsoft Windows this year. Number 9 is Yakuza 6: The Song of Life, a game that really shows developers how to use an open world by giving us not a very particularly large world and packing it. On top of that, the Yakuza games have always had good combat. There is no reason to expect that to change here. In my time with Yakuza 6, though I admittedly haven't finished it yet, I found it to be an incredibly interesting game, but in every way it brings the kind of dense detail of Shenmue's style open world with a more modern type of game that is much more action-packed. Yakuza 6 is already out, and it's a game that you have to pick up if you like action or open world. Number 8 is Kingdom Hearts 3, supposedly the actual final close of the story, which is one of the hardest to follow thread lines in gaming. On account, none of the game titles make any sense for continuity, but they're still fun games, they're beautiful games, with an unmistakable style and a take on Disney that is just frankly bizarre but at least interesting, and very rich in both plot and character development. This is a game a lot of people have been waiting for a very long time, and it is coming sometime in 2018. Number 7 is Detroit Become Human, a game about a bunch of androids hanging around, supposedly able to continue the story in a lot of different directions, based on a lot of different deaths that can happen. It's an interactive narrative experience that is extremely ambitious, with apparently over 250 actors portraying 513 roles. Frankly, it looks like an interesting story that we really haven't seen about artificial intelligence, so assuming it plays out in a way that makes us think, obviously that's a good thing. Detroit Become Human is coming out on the 25th of May this year. Number 6 is Monster Hunter World, the more adult version of Pokemon. That is a simplification, of course, it is not that, but it's not hard to see the parallels. If you've never played a Monster Hunter game, this is probably your best place to start. It is an open world action RPG in which you hunt monsters. This one has been influenced most by the West, but retains the feel of all the previous titles in a way that some were concerned it wouldn't. I've yet to see anybody who really truly hates this game, and most people I've talked to absolutely love it, which makes sense because it's a pretty damn good game. It's already out on consoles and will be out on PC later in the year. Number 5 is Far Cry 5, a game that actually is pretty damn good. The whole cult aspect of everything is quite interesting. The game also happened to be a lot less political than people wanted it to be or didn't want it to be, but I think a lot of the themes actually ring true. It's certainly an interesting game and does take its time on social commentary if you're looking for it. It's also a great Far Cry entry, probably one of the better ones if you ask me, and it's obviously already out so you can pick it up at your leisure. Number 4 is State of Decay 2, a game that is intending to place you in more of a co-op situation. However, you will be able to play it in single player if you so desire. In a lot of ways, it doesn't seem as though the core ideas of State of Decay has changed significantly. However, players will be encouraged to be more community-minded. Now keep in mind, these communities are very small, either a single player and a couple of AIs, or a few people playing together. Still, State of Decay is one of the better survival games out there, and to see them expand on the ideas, even if it may not be revolutionary but rather evolutionary, is not something that bothers me. It's actually something I'm very happy to see, and I'm looking forward to playing. State of Decay 2 is coming on May 22nd of this year. Number 3 is God of War, which is really getting a warm, phenomenally good reception. I've now had a little bit of time with it and I love it, but I'm not going to say that I've been able to play the entire game. But everything I have heard from anybody who has played this game ahead of release makes it appear to be perhaps one of the more important AAA games of the last few years. God of War takes a lot of the conventions of the original God of War series and brings a lot more depth and variety to the equation. With downtime, dialogue, patience. Yes, there is patience in this game. Not a lot of that in the original series. But it makes the game much more three-dimensional, and it's not to its detriment. It doesn't overcomplicate it. What I've played of it has presented a much more mature setting and plot without sacrificing any of the interesting gameplay, particularly given the fact that you're escorting an AI around who doesn't actually get in the way or become annoying. This game represents the sum of a lot of good design decisions. I'd highly recommend Jakes before you buy on this. I think that he did a very good job describing this game, and I agree with his opinion. It's a great game, and it is very much worth the hype. It's out, so if you want to play it, go buy it. Number 2 is SpiderMan, the upcoming open-world, web-slinging action-adventure game coming from Insomniac Games, the creators of Sunset Overdrive, which in my opinion, that sentence right there is enough to make me excited about it. If you've seen the combat from this Spider-Man game, this looks like easily the most fun combat in quite a while in a superhero game, taking full advantage of the fact that he is always up in the air during a battle, really kind of looking like the first game that really takes that aspect seriously as far as Spider-Man goes. Also looking incredible is the web-slinging action. Frankly, in previous Spider-Man games that have been done right, that is the attraction to the game, but this looks to be so much more. I cannot wait to play it. It's coming out on September 7th of this year. And finally, number 1 is Red Dead Redemption 2, the cowboy GTA. Except much more, the original Red Dead Redemption and its predecessor Red Dead Revolver are both games that do more in the way of immersion than I think Grand Theft Auto does, partly because the world is so foreign to the one that we live in. At the same time, we've all heard so much about the Wild Wild West that it's fun to play through a version of it, and for me, the plot of the previous Red Dead Redemption game was more detailed and more interesting than any Grand Theft Auto plot, and I'm not saying that to diminish the Grand Theft Auto plots, just that they're trying to be a very specific thing, and they achieve that very well. The first RDR achieved something, in my opinion, a bit more grand, and I'm really excited for another attempt at that. Red Dead Redemption 2 is coming on October 26th, and we will all be waiting with bated breath. Couple of quick bonus games for you. Dark Souls Remastered, which is of course a remastered version of Dark Souls that you'll be able to play on Nintendo Switch, which is, in my opinion, cool. Obviously not huge amounts of graphical fidelity will be added. It doesn't really need it. It's a pretty decent looking game. It holds up at this point in time. And let's face it, Dark Souls is amazing. Also, we'll possibly be seeing Last of Us Part 2. We're not going to say that we expect it because, well, aside from the possibility, there isn't really much else. That being said, Last of Us 2 is great and we can't wait to see the next one, so why not mention it? And finally, Captain Toad Treasure Tracker, which builds upon an idea from Super Mario 3D World, if you remember this aspect of it. This is a game that was released on the Wii U and will be being released on Switch and 3DS with some enhancements, as well as some Mario Odyssey themed worlds, and I think that this is probably when most people will get exposed to this game, which is actually pretty solid and enjoyable. Mega Man 11, or what I like to call ballot, what mighty number 9 wishes it was. What game are you looking forward to the most this year? Leave us a comment, let us know, and if you enjoyed this video, please click like. If you're not subscribed, now is of course a great time to do so. We upload brand new videos every day of the week, and the best way to see them first is of course a subscription. As always, we thank you very much for watching this video. I'm Falcon. You can follow me on Twitter at FalconTheHero, and we'll see you next time right here on GameRanks.